mighty Congo, second largest river on earth, has witnessed many daring expeditions seeking adventure, seeking to solve the mysteries of darkest Africa's hundreds of miles of impenetrable jungles, hiding orchids rare and abundant, birds and animals, beautiful, strange, and many still unknown to science, and tribes of natives whose ancestral ceremonies and customs are still their own dark secrets. One of the most unusual expeditions ever to disembark at Stanleyville in the heart of the Belgian Congo presents a startling contrast to the safaris of previous explorers, such as the Great Stanley, after whom the town is named. This time it is a completely motorized safari, including two of the most amazingly modernized luxury trailers ever built in any country, the Jungle Yachts, powered by International Harvester. These streamlined trailers and their complement of stock model international trucks constitute the caravan of the 10th Gatti African Expedition under the leadership of Commander Attilio Gatti, veteran of many years' experience in Africa's darkest interior. Accompanying him is Mrs. Gatti, his American wife. Two American engineers are in charge of the elaborate mechanized equipment, and the American cameraman. A brief stop before taking the trail into the dense interior. But what's this? Why, it's a jungle reception committee. Mr. and Mrs. Chimpanzee. The coy little lady is seeking security and safety behind the protection of her hairy consort. General Ermans, Vice Governor of the Belgian Congo, comes to inspect the trailers. The last word in civilized comfort and convenience, completely electrified with every conceivable needed scientific and household appliance. Air conditioned for both heat and cold. Here is the elegant bathroom. Truly, these are trailers of tomorrow. The Gatti expedition flag is attached to each of the units. Last-minute preparations have been completed, and the caravan is on its way. In the jungle and mountain country, the Belgian Congo government has built dirt roads, fair in dry seasons, difficult when the rains come. When rivers are reached, the long, heavy trailers and the trucks are loaded onto crude pontoons to be ferried precariously over the murky waters, where the result of an upset may be more than the important loss of equipment. Beyond Iramo, as many as 7 pontoon crossings must be made in traveling 500 miles. At last, safely across, we hurry on our way again, gliding over the miles, accomplishing in hours distances which once required days of the most grueling ordeal. Passing through native villages, the inhabitants stare in amazement as the fabulous caravan rolls by. Then race after the last car. As he refuses to take no for an answer, well, we yield to his pleadings. He is given the job of polishing the trucks, but his work is interrupted by the invasion of millions and millions of migrating locusts. Everything must be closed up tight, or when they come down on our camp, They'll swarm into every open window and door, into every uncovered pot on the stove. Here they come. We're in for a deluge. But to the camp boys, it's a holiday. Dry and cooked, they're a delicacy to eat, so the natives think. Breaking camp and moving our tons of supplies is no small task. This steel-bodied International carries the bulk of the material, while scientific, photographic, and other equipment is adequately transported in a station wagon and a wire-paneled truck. But whoa, what's this? We're already in the big game country. A chance meeting with some Mambuti pygmies informs us of the possibility of finding even that rarest of all animals, the strange Okapi. While the commander and Mrs. Gatti are selecting a suitable place to build the main camp, the camera crew has other ideas. This nearby river is the home of a large herd of grotesque jungle amphibians. Most pictures of hippos show them standing sleepily on the muddy banks of a river or snoozing contentedly in the murky water, because they feed at night and sleep during the day. In the meantime, our large corps of native boys proceed rapidly with preparations for the camp. Such work as this in Africa is done in rhythm, with a few dance steps added for variety. And their pay is 3 1/3 cents per day. The equipment is brought up as soon as the campsite is ready. The big trailers and other units are maneuvered into position. And quickly, the little village of tents is erected. We've brought about everything in cans except African sunshine. And our shortwave radio makes us seem quite close to civilization. The white man's modern means of travel has a peculiar fascination for Shilil, the boy. His wildest ambition is to drive a truck. It takes an endless amount of organization and detailed direction to carry such an expedition through a year in Africa. Night in the jungle is something never to be forgotten. The trumpeting of elephants and the blood-chilling cries of other unseen beasts, and an occasional game of African golf by the native boys. One never knows just what to expect from jungle beasts or men. Even our own boys are wisely suspicious of the tribesmen, who emerge like specters from the forest trails. Looking into some of their faces caused unpleasant recollections of the fate of other explorers. For these natives once were all cannibals, and some secretly still practice the pastime. But we soon learn that their visit is an amiable one. They have traveled from far and wide. Their drums and jungle signals have spread the news of our visit, and they have come to see the amazing trailers, which they call the houses that walk. Then, to assure us of their friendliness, they all swing into a dance to the accompaniment of their strange tribal music. One of the purposes of this expedition was to photograph the strange Okapi in its natural environment. The pygmies had finally located the feeding ground of one of these rarest of animals. The haunts of the Okapi are the deepest and most impenetrable sections of the equatorial rainforest of the Congo. Because of this, and the animal's exceedingly stealthy nature, it has been known to science only a very few years, and its habits are still very much of a mystery. Needless to say, we all hold our breath as we noiselessly approach at the heels of our pygmy guides. And there he is. To the layman, the Okapi appears to be a grotesque cross between a giraffe and a zebra. A beautiful, rich brown, striped with black and silver. But to the scientist, he is somewhat of a living fossil, reminiscent of the prehistoric Samotherium that roamed Europe about 15 million years ago. This object of our visit to the big forest country accomplished, our caravan again takes to the road. We are now in the magic mountains of the moon, a beautiful country where the road climbs and winds among hundreds of large and small volcanic cones and craters, which separate the humid jungles from the great plains of the further interior. Elephants are plentiful. The ponderous pachyderms find daytime shelter in the clumps of trees, from which they stare at us disdainfully as we pass by. Our safari speeds onward, rapidly leaving mile after mile behind. Here's another herd, just going out onto the plains. The African elephant is considered one of the most dangerous of all big game animals. He makes unprovoked attacks and has torn many a careless hunter limb from limb and trampled the unfortunate victim furiously into the ground. From his observation seat on the top of a trailer, Commander Gatti spies the killer of the African wilds, a fine big specimen of lioness. And where there is one lion, there are generally more. Yes, there's the proud old king of beasts himself, a beautifully maned monarch of the plains. The temptation for a little excitement in stalking a bunch of lions on foot is too great to pass by. But you'll notice that the trusted gun bearer is taken along, as well as the camera. As long as man is hunted, he is given complimentary testimony to the courage, strength, and fighting qualities of the lion. The lion is known as a killer, for he subsists almost entirely on other game animals he pulls down with claws and fangs. But the lion does not kill for the mere love of killing. He destroys for sustenance only. Few persons have ever seen a lion actually making a kill. Most of his hunting is done at night, when his feline eyesight is apparently as keen as in the daylight, and darkness gives aid to his stealth. Lions rarely make unprovoked attacks. Yet, photographing them on foot at close range is guaranteed to raise one's blood pressure considerably. But even lions are only a port of call with us. We must be on our way again. Giraffes give us but little attention and go racing off like animated hobby horses. A herd of zebras also show us their heels. The houses that walk carry on through jungle and plain. They are left far behind. New tribes and new adventures meet us in an ever-changing landscape. Here we are in the land of one of the most amazing tribes in all Africa, the giant Watutsi. The Watutsi are herdsmen and aristocrats with vast herds and hundreds of slaves who do all the work. The cows are lured in to be milked by the slaves who use the calves as decoys, carrying them piggyback or in their arms like babies. The Watutsi cattle are beautiful animals and give a very fine grade of milk. They receive the most excellent care. And the calves are never completely weaned until the mother goes dry. Milking is both a chore and a ceremony. Here, a Watutsi prince blesses the day's milk. Every man in the tribe is a prince, and each man's bearing is dignity personified. The milk is carried to the house to be stored in great calabashes. The cream is made into butter. And one of the unusual uses of the butter is for the regular massaging of the bodies of the prince's growing sons. The Watutsi are as superb a race of athletes as the world has ever seen. They are lithe, broad-shouldered, narrow-hipped, good-looking, graceful. Tradition says they are descendants of a noble race of ancient Egyptians. The young tribesmen practice archery more as a sport and for physical development than as training for hunting. The boys also practice high jumping. For it is in this sport that the giant Watutsi excel every other people in the entire world. When they gather to compete for honors, their accomplishments exceed any records which have ever been made at the International Olympic Games. At this impromptu exhibition, several men cleared the bar at 7 feet 1 inch. And it is reliably reported that some of the princes have gone over at the amazing height of 8 feet. The official world's record is 6 feet 9 3/4 inches. But of all the customs and practices of the giant Watutsi, the strangest is that of their Iniambo, or sacred cows. Iniambo means cows with long horns, and they have them to the length of 12 feet from tip to tip. Each of these sacred cows has its own attendant, a slave whose life work it is to care for a particular cow, to adorn it with decorations, and to sing its praises. Aristocratic living and athletic play in the Watutsi tribe is also frequently enlivened by dancing, which is truly in keeping with the temperament of this remarkable race. In sheer grace and rhythm, it is perfection, unexcelled either by the tribal dances of other frontiers or by the sophisticated ballet of most any metropolis. Just watch their poetry of motion. Listen to the weird sounds of their own music. The expedition's flag is tattered and frayed by the ordeal of 10,000 miles of African travel. Despite the hazards of jungle and mountain, the tropical rains, and the equatorial heat and humidity, every unit in our international powered caravan has traversed the Congo without hesitancy or complaint. It has been a strange, revealing journey. Turning homeward is not without regrets.